I use social media quite a bit for business, and as I'm scrolling through my timeline, I see a lot of things, and I think to myself, this person does not have any real friends. Because you'll see people post things that are detrimental or that just don't make sense, and then they have people egging them on and encouraging them to go down this path that makes them look bad or could cause them hurt or harm. We don't want to do that. It's easy to have somebody who tells you what you want to hear, but you want to surround yourself with people who tell you the truth. And you also want to be that person who will tell somebody the truth. You don't want to just tell people what they want to hear because it's not good for them. And when we speak of being preachers or teachers or ministry or just saints of God in general, we want to speak the truth, which is the word of God, and not just tell people, oh, that's okay, do whatever you want to do. Ain't no harm in that when we know that it doesn't align with the word of God. So and we always want to be truthful no matter what. And as always, it's such a pleasure to be here for the Sanctuary Sunday School powered by the Sanctuary Academy. And this week's subject is speaking truth to power. And here we see King Ahab. Now, we had a lesson about Ahab a few weeks ago where the text said that he had done more evil and displeased God more than any king before him. So we see, what we're dealing with here and his record. And after all of that with his wife Jezebel and the false prophets and the famine and all of those things, he still didn't have enough. And he had all of these prophets because God set up a plan for them where you would have a king, but you had prophets that would advise the king in what the Lord was saying. But his prophets were all false prophets, and they would only say what he wanted them to say. Now, here we see Ahab was the king of Israel, but then we also have Jehoshaphat, who is the king of Judah. And remember, there was one united kingdom of Judah, of Israel, with the 12 tribes. So the northern kingdom was 10 tribes. That was Israel. That's who Ahab was the king of. And then we have the two tribes that were the southern kingdom. Then they took the name Judah, and that is who Jehoshaphat was the king of. So here we see that the two nations came back together for an alliance, and they were going to go up against Ramoth Gilead. And so he called in the prophet Micaiah. And this was Ahab. He called in the prophet Micaiah and asked him if it would be a success if he should go up with battle with them. And so Micaiah just said, yeah, go ahead. You're going to go. The Lord is with you. You're going to prosper. And that was not true. So it was a thing where you could look at it as being sarcastic because Micaiah would tell Ahab the truth. Ahab didn't want to hear the truth, and so he would be angry with Micaiah. So in this instance, he just told him what he wanted to hear. It's like, yeah, okay, go on up there. You're going to be fine. And Ahab knew that this was not true. It was not consistent with the character of Micaiah and the way that he prophesied. So he said, okay, I'm going to need you to tell me the truth. And he told them, he said, if you go up there, the Lord said that I will see Israel scattered as a sheep without a shepherd, a flock without a leader, which meant that Ahab would be killed in that battle. And so then Ahab didn't like the prophecy again. And he said, see, I told you, he always prophesies something evil towards me. And it's amazing how Ahab saw the truth as being evil. And it's kind of like, well, why did you call me and ask me to tell you the truth if you didn't want to hear it anyway? So he did not want to hear this prophecy from Micaiah. Now, Jehoshaphat was a true king that had followed the will of God. But in this particular instance, he wanted, he just said, okay. And he was there with Ahab and he listened and he didn't even speak up and tell Ahab, okay, this is not what's going to happen. So Ahab said, okay, you take Micaiah and you lock him up. And when I come back in peace, that's when you let him out of prison. And Micaiah told him, you're not coming back in peace. And so this is what he did. And this was really striking because you kind of see this today. The people who are speaking the truth are somewhat silenced. They don't get the stage. They don't get the arena. They don't get the position. It's the people who say what the powers that be want to hear. It's the people who play the role that get center stage. But it does not change the truth. And the judgment that comes is the same. And sometimes we're really struggling in our lives, in our families, in our churches, even because we are ignoring the truth and we are embracing what we want to hear. That's why I love Sunday school so much, because if you know the Word of God and if you obey the Word of God, people can't fool you and send you off, as they say, the way that Ahab wanted to go and up into this battle. And this prophecy was true. Ahab did not return, and he was killed in that battle. And it's so sad to allow the enemy to do that to you. I always say, even if you're going to do something wrong, at least know that it's wrong and have a backup plan or something. You don't just go jump off and do something that ends in your destruction. And that's what Ahab did. And I love the way that our subject is worded, speaking truth to power. Because when Micaiah spoke this truth to Ahab, it was true, it was powerful, and it came to pass just like he said. And that's the kind of person, the kind of people that we want to be. And I had to chuckle a little bit when I was reading this because I'm guilty of it. There are some people, they'll ask my opinion, and I know they just want a yes person. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever you say, do whatever you want to do. And I kind of was I kind of was convicted on that, where I said, okay, maybe I need to stop doing that. But again, in an instance like Ahab, the person is not trying to do right. They're gonna do what they want to do anyway, and you kind of wonder, okay, why did you ask me anyway? But it was very necessary for Micaiah to speak this true prophecy to verify the word of God. The word of God always needs to be spoken, whether it is accepted or rejected, because now we have this prophecy on record here in the book of Kings in the 22nd chapter that Micaiah told Ahab exactly what God said would happen, and it happened just like the prophet said it. Had Micaiah just gone along with the first thing he said, just go up there and it's going to be okay, and not delivered the true prophecy of God, we wouldn't have that. And we would not know that that's what God said. And we are charged with making sure that we speak the truth. Speak truth to power. When God tells you something, when God shows you something, it is true, and we have to speak the truth. And this lesson, again, I know I say it every week, but it's so timely because we see lies everywhere. Sometimes I sit and I watch the news, or sometimes I sit in business meetings, or sometimes even in church, and I hear things that I know is not the truth, and I know doesn't align with the will of God. And I'm going, oh my God, because I grew up old school. I've said this before. My mom used to tell me that if you play with God, he'll slap your face one-sided. And I like my face. I don't want my face one-sided. So I'm extremely careful what I say and do in the sanctuary. And even now, I'm sitting here in my office. This is my house where I pay bills. But I'm extremely careful what I say and do in this house because I want my house to be blessed and my family to be blessed and my life to be blessed. I don't want to listen to things that are not true and ungodly and go off and do something that causes my destruction. And I most definitely don't want to get on these videos and say anything to you that causes your destruction. And that is what God is holding us accountable for. God is true, and he is holding us accountable for the truth. And that's where the power is, because when you know the truth makes you free. You're not bound by lies. And I don't even know, I can't lie because I don't have time to keep my story straight. I say what I'm going to say. I don't see how people can track all the lies that they tell, and keep up with it, because that's too much. That's too much work. That's too hard. I prefer to study the word of God, learn the truth, speak the truth, tell everybody the same thing, and then it gives you power, it gives you verity, it allows people to be able to believe in you. Like, even though Ahab despised Micaiah and called his prophecies evil, he knew enough to know that Micaiah was speaking the word of God. And even though Israel had a powerful army, and he probably figured that he could go up there and override this, in the back of his mind, he knew. And at least he had the truth. He had heard the truth. See, God gives us all a chance to hear the truth. We got to be careful not to ignore it. And I've been in this situation. Have you ever done something where something is telling you this is not going to work? I shouldn't do this. It's going to turn out bad. But then you override it and you do it anyway. I've done it, and I've done it more than once. And I finally learned not to do it no more because, as the word said, the way of the transgressor is hard. And I just got tired. I got tired of suffering. I got tired of things not working out. I got tired. Life is difficult enough without me adding on the extra burdens that come with disobeying God. So for me, getting saved was about, okay, I'm tired of living like this, Lord. I need to be blessed. I'm tired of dealing with these consequences. Just let me do right, live right, tell the truth so we can be good. So when the problem does come, I can come to you for deliverance and you can carry me through this. And so we see here, this is what we're looking at. And again, we have two kings here. We have King Jehoshaphat of Judah, and we have King Ahab of Israel. And Ahab wanted to go up to fight at Ramoth Gilead. The prophet Micaiah initially told him that he would win because he just, okay, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear because it's what you want. But then he petitioned him to give him the truth. He gave him the true prophecy that he would not win this battle and he would not return alive in peace. And this prophecy came true. And this is a lesson to us to stand on the true word of God, to speak the truth, to listen to the truth, to be the truth every single day of our lives.